Chapter 1. When, Where and How. There is no present without past, so everybody is inclined to know something about the past. How did people live? What was their food? And how did they obtain it? What and how did they discover and invent? Which gods did they worship? There are many such questions that we are curious to know about. In this chapter, we will study what history is, what are the sources to know about it, and how geographical features influence the course of man's life. Meaning of history. The term history comes from the Greek word historia, which means learning of knowing by inquiry. In other words, history is the story of human society which began in the earlier past. It also tells us about the story of their progress and the problems they faced. Dates in history. In history, dates are expressed in BC and AD. The birth of Jesus Christ is the dividing point from which we count the dates. If an event happened 20 years before the birth of Christ, we write it as 20 BC, that is, before Christ. On the other hand, anything that happened 20 years after the birth of Christ, we write it as 20 AD, that is, Anno Domini, meaning the year of our Lord. Time frame in history. History is generally divided into 3 time periods: prehistory, proto-history, and history. Prehistory. The prehistoric period is the time when writing had not been invented. Hence, there are no written records for this period. Proto-history. The proto-history refers to the period for which we have written records. However, they are very few and still cannot be read. History. History refers to the time period for which we have sufficient written records from this period. Geographical features. Geographical features influence the history of a country to a great extent. Indian subcontinent is a vast landmass bordered by large Himalayan mountains in the north and 3 seas in the east, west and south. Huge mountains protect our land from cold winds blowing across the north. India has 3 big rivers: Indus, Ganges and Brahmaputra. The fertile plains of these river valleys provided ideal settlement for the people of ancient times. Sources of history. They may be divided into 2 categories: 1. Literary and 2. Archaeological. Literary sources. The literary sources may be divided into 2 parts: religious and secular. Religious literature. These sources throw light on the teachings of various religions. They provide important information about the advent and development of different religions. Many books contain religious themes. For example, the Vedas, the Ramayana, the Mahabharata, the Gita, the Puranas of the Hindus, Pitakas of the Buddhists, and the Angas of the Jains. Secular literature. Secular literature are those which are not connected to any religion or faith. These include poetry, drama, the accounts of foreign travelers, and works on science, grammar, and politics. Archaeological sources. Archaeological sources include inscriptions, coins, and monuments. Inscriptions. These are writings engraved on pillars, walls, metal plates, etc. The study of inscriptions is called epigraphy. It provides a lot of information about events, kings, their policies, and the cultural background that existed then. Coins. The study of coins is called numismatics. In ancient period, different types of metal and leather coins were used. By studying them, we come to know about the period, the age, the span of kings' rule, and extent of their domain, their deal on the religious beliefs, arts, and abilities of the rulers. Monuments. Temples, forts, places, and other structures built for some special purposes are called monuments. The Sanchi Stupa, Nalanda University, Tanjore Temple, etc. are some of the ancient Indian monuments. The study of these gives us an insight into the ancient cultural, educational, and spiritual strength of India.